Would you like to have a mentor whose journey you could learn from? And even if you have one or more mentors, how about another? It's hard to have too many. Welcome to this second in a special series of podcast episodes we're calling My Remarkable Journey. In each of these episodes, I will talk with a senior leader, typically a CEO, and today it is a CEO, to learn about their path, their lessons, and their journey towards becoming the leader they are today. Welcome to this very special episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, you could have been listening to live episodes in the future. You can do that on your favorite social channel. You can get all future live episodes and interact with us and see them sooner, in this case, 3 weeks sooner, by joining our Facebook or LinkedIn groups. Just go to remarkablepodcast.com/Facebook or remarkablepodcast.com/LinkedIn. Today's episode is brought to you by Virtual LeaderCon. How would you like to join me in live conversations with 30 experts over 4 days to help you become a more effective leader and human? This highly interactive virtual leadership conference is completely free to watch live. It's like this on steroids. You can you can gain forever access, lifetime access to the archive of what you miss, or you can listen again. Consider this, like I said, like a podcast on steroids. Virtual LeaderCon, September 12th through 15th, 2022. If you missed it, you can still gain lifetime access. If you're hearing this before it starts, you can get all of the registration information as well. Either way, virtualleadercon.com. I hope you'll do that. And now it's time for me to bring in our guest. Here he is. If you're watching, you can see him. His name is Darrin Jahnel. Let me introduce Darrin, and then we're going to dive in. Darrin Jahnel is the founder and CEO of Jahnel Group, a 150-person software consulting company headquartered in Schenectady, New York. He leads with energy and is maniacally focused on creating an amazing work environment for his team, which I'm sure we will talk about. He earned his undergraduate degree in business administration from the University of Albany and his master's degree in information systems from NYU's Stern School of Business. Prior to starting this company in 2012, he worked as a senior software engineer on Wall Street. Darrin has led numerous engineering teams on multi-million-dollar projects and is a member of Mensa, which means, by definition, he's smarter than me. Darrin, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm fired up to be here, and hopefully I can bring some nuggets and some value to the audience here.
So listen, we got people here. I don't know where all from, but they're saying hello, including we've got people from Kenya. I know we've got a number of people from the United States. So we are glad that everyone is here. And so, Darrin,
Kev, let me jump in. This is so bizarre. My sons, I have 4 kids. 2 of my sons just got back from Kenya. So they had an amazing trip over there. That's so funny that there's a guy on from Kenya. So small world.
It's an increasingly small world.
Yeah.
And things like this platform that, didn't exist when you got into the software business. Certainly didn't exist when I started my business. Anyway, let's sort of start by talking about your first leadership role, whether that was as a supervisor or a project manager, project leader. When you think about that first leadership role, what's a lesson that you learned early that's really stuck with you all the while?
Yeah, definitely for me, Kevin, my first leadership roles were in sports, in youth sports growing up. I just kind of always was, I think, a natural leader and drawn to that. But then as I got into, my professional career, I can remember, maybe in my 20s getting promoted up to kind of a team leader and just thinking, well, I'm a sports guy. I've been leading teams and been team captain. This is going to be easy for me. And then kind of having a rude awakening of, oh, wow, there's actually, there's an art to this, or there's, a lot of science to this as well as art to it. And boy, was I young and naive, and I did not perform well in my first leadership role. And I got some really tough feedback from the people that I was trying to lead. And so I think that was a big wake-up call for me is, all right, just because you think you're a natural leader, maybe you've got some natural talent or something there, but man, you got to put the work in. I got to learn. I got to read books. I got to go back to school. I've got to take my game to the next level if I want to be an effective leader and have an impact on this world. And so that was the big takeaway is I got to put my work in.
So you, like me, worked in large organizations and then made the shift to start your own company. So I'm curious. And so when you started, I'm guessing it was you or one or two, three people, and now you've got a large group of folks in your organization. When you think about the various steps on your leadership journey, all the way up through being an owner, being a CEO, like what's something that you're really proud of on that overall journey?
Kevin, I think that as you transition, right, from maybe you start as an individual contributor, then you're managing maybe one person or two, and then you kind of move up to building a team. And, there are these different like milestones, certainly your first person you're leading, then maybe when your team gets to around 8 or 10, and then maybe 30 or 40. To me, kind of going up through 30 or 40 people when Jahnel Group was that size, I was still involved in every project. I was working with everybody on a day-to-day basis. I felt like a lot of the classic stuff that I learned applied. As we broke through that milestone and started getting into 40, 50, 60 people where it was, I couldn't have interaction with every single person on the team. We now started to build out a leadership team and be very intentional about scaling that up, right? And I think we navigated that fairly well. Again, made a ton of mistakes and learned a lot along the way. But that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of. Right now, we have a 150-person team. We have 15 people on the leadership team, and it's actually working, right? And I think that the culture hasn't taken a hit. And really to navigate that and kind of build leaders underneath. My brother and I are the co-founders of this company. So to build a leadership team out underneath us, that's the thing we're the most proud of.
So you mentioned the word culture. So let's just talk about that for a second. What's your, and we could probably spend the whole conversation on this, and I don't want to do that, but I'd really like to know from your perspective, what are the most important pieces of culture, or what have you learned as a leader about culture? Because that's not natural, right? Even when you're in sports, like we're playing football, we're playing baseball, whatever we're playing, and culture is like another layer. What are you trying to achieve culture-wise, and sort of what is a couple of lessons you might have for us around that?
Yeah, Kevin, when we were young, my brother and I playing sports, we were big basketball guys, played hoops in college, and we're very serious about the game. We were lucky enough to be a part of a few really special teams when we were younger. And a special team can be magical, right? That, to me, that's when people are at their best. It's when they're fired up to come in and get after it and go to work. They're willing to sacrifice for each other. They're rooting each other on. There's that special feeling. The number one telltale sign of a special team to me is it's like a magnet, Kevin. It draws people in, right? It's not just the people in the team, it's friends and family, and people come to practice early and they hang out after, and after a big win, everybody goes out together and people just want to be around it, right? And it doesn't have to be a sports team. It could be a startup company, it could be a fraternity, a sorority, a band. There's many different special teams. But so my brother and I were lucky enough to be on a few of those special teams early as young athletes. Kind of didn't really realize it. We just thought that it was always like this. So as we got older and we started joining different teams, again, whether it was school or business, and we didn't have that special team feeling, it was something that drove me crazy. It made me nuts. I'm like, why can't we be like we were in, my basketball team from 1993? You know what I mean? And it took us a while to really figure out why, and we started to break down that formula. And so I think by being intentional and really studying it and then implementing that, saying, well, this is what makes a special team, and going out of our way to be connected to our people and actually try to implement these things. I think that was a big part about it, right? And now we can disseminate that and try to share with our team, this is what we're trying to do, and here's why. And we tell people, right? It's not, people think sometimes it's like too contrived. If you're trying to create an event, we'll create an event, or we'll try to create a moment. We're trying to create a special moment. So we'll throw a beer pong tournament and we'll give $10,000 to the winner. But we're telling our people, yeah, we're trying to create that magic moment where the guy sinks the shot for 10,000 and we all mob him and it's going to be crazy. Yeah, we're going out of our way to actually manufacture that moment. But that's what's going to happen, right? When that guy makes the shot for $10,000, it will be magical. Have you ever made $10,000 for making a beer pong shot? No, right? Neither have I, and I want that moment in my own life. But
so wait a minute, are you allowed to play in your own tournament? That's the real question, Darrin.
Yeah, my brother and I play as a team, and we get our ass kicked. These young guys are so damn good at that game; it's tough.
So since you've talked about sports, and since you talked about basketball, which I happen to love as well. Now, a quick aside question: a basketball coach, and let's go with not one of yours, but with someone that others might know, at least in the U.S. A basketball coach that you admire and something you learned from them.
Oh, there's so many come to mind. I'm going to give a guy who kind of irks me a little bit, Coach K from Duke, right? I'm not really a Duke fan, and Coach K can be irksome, right? Coach Mike Krzyzewski we're talking about. But I think Coach K, he's retired now, he just retired, but he did such an unbelievable job at being intentional in building that culture in the way that we just talked about it, right? If you read his book, if you listen to him speak, he had a formula that he was following. And by kind of seeing how he went about that, again, I think one of the reasons he can be irksome is like, people might look at it as like, oh, here goes Coach K again. He's going to talk about one of his leadership lessons. And it kind of sounds like contrived BS. But the difference with him and what we try to do as well is, if you actually care, and you really are putting your people on your team, if you're putting them before yourself, well, then it actually works and it resonates, right? And so I think watching Coach K implement his formula and his system and then teach it to his assistant coaches, and now he's out of there, Coach John Shire has taken over, I think it's going to keep rolling because of the system he built, right? And we've taken a lot from that.
It will remain to be seen. I guess we'll have to check in on that at some future point.
Sorry, Kevin. They did get the #1 recruiting class in the nation, so it does seem like it's going to keep rolling.
I know. I'm very, very aware of that.
Yeah.
So what is it that drives you every day as a human, but as a leader? What's a driver for you?
Sure. Well, Kevin, I believe that I know my purpose on this earth, right? I actually believe I know why God put me here, right? And now I'm speaking for God. God's probably up there going, oh my goodness, here this guy goes. He's going to tell me what I think. But the reason I think God put me on this earth is to help people level up, specifically young people, right? When young people come into this organization, my only goal, and then thus the goal of Jahnel Group, is to help them go from here to here, here to here, here to here, wherever that might be, right? If we come in every day and we just try to help people go up a level and steer their career and their life where they want it to go, then good things will happen. Even if that means, look, this guy's not meant to be a software engineer and we got to help him get a job with someone else that I know, well, then if we're helping him level up, I go home at the end of the day and I look at that as a win. I look up at the big man upstairs and I say, hey, I'm trying to do what I think my purpose is. And that gets me high. I get so excited and happy when we can help somebody level up, Kevin. And I look at that as a win. So that's what drives me every day. And the more you do that, the more good things are going to happen.
So when we think, you mentioned earlier that, one of the things you learned early as a leader is, man, this is harder than I thought. There's more to it than I thought. And yet you mentioned that, in sports that perhaps maybe there were some natural traits. What would you say is your biggest strength as a leader? Or maybe what would your team say is your biggest strength as a leader?
Sure. That one's the easy one for me. I hear this feedback consistently. It is definitely my energy, Kevin. I come in every day. God gave me a motor, man. I come in, I get fired up. It's very easy to get me going. Every single day, I'm happy. I'm getting after it. I'm bringing fire and I'm bringing energy. Sometimes it might be a little bit annoying, right? My wife is like, "Oh my goodness, is anyone just sick of you?" And
Can we turn it down a little, right?
and I say, "All right, I'll bring it down from a 10 to a 9.5, baby." But yeah, energy, that is my thing. It's easy for me to get fired up, and it's just the way I choose to live my life. And I don't know, if energy comes from chemicals in your brain, my chemicals are a little bit out of whack, but I love it, baby.
All right, cool. So, you also mentioned feedback earlier, and I think it's fair to say that a lot of times when we hear the word feedback, people will think of negative. Although you just said the thing you most constantly hear about feedback about yourself is your energy. I'm curious now, as you look over your whole leadership career or journey, what's the most valuable feedback? And whether that doesn't matter whether that's corrective or whether that's positive, what's the most valuable feedback that you've received?
I think it goes back to some of those early lessons where I talked about not being such a great leader. Um, in the sports environment, right? If you're on a special team and everybody's all in and they drank the Kool-Aid, you can lead by just working harder, screaming at your teammates, just bringing energy and kind of being like an aggressive, at times, maniacal jerk. You know what I mean? That worked for Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. There's many great leaders who have had success doing that. And that works if you're in that environment. But in a professional setting, when I just brought that rage and that, like, come on, let's go, we're going to work harder, just do 80 hours. And then kind of it wasn't being received well. I'm just like, well, why aren't these people all in the way they used to be? It's because I didn't care about them in the way, or I hadn't developed that relationship where they saw that I cared about them. I actually did care about them, but I'm just now some guy who's maybe a workaholic and got my work-life balance out of whack, right? And so it was kind of realizing, like, all right, not everybody's like me. Not everyone has this energy. And just because that worked in the sports environment, I've got to meet every single person where they're at, right? My job as a leader is to help people architect the life of their dreams, right? Not just the career, the life of their dreams. Some people might be very aggressive like me and they want to fast forward their career. I know how to help them do that. Some people might be like, look, dude, I'm here for 9 to 5. I got 3 kids at home and I'm a work-life balance type of person. I need to meet them there and figure out a way that we can all work together so that each person can cultivate and architect the life of their dreams, right? That was the biggest lesson, realizing like not everyone is a psycho like me and wants to just go faster and harder. And so I think it was that realization that was my biggest lesson.
I think that for any of us, and there will be people who are listening for whom this is also true, that started their own company. That's a different thing. Like, I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's different. And I think that any of us that have done that and have then moved from just sort of being it's me doing the work to me leading a team or an organization, that's often the case. And there are oftentimes entrepreneurs that have a hard time with that shift that you just described. And so I really appreciate you sharing that.
And Kevin,
and I'm guessing your team is happy to, hopefully that when they listen to this, they don't think that you've not really figured it out, right? That you're saying it, but you're not doing it. But my sense is that you are, and it'd be useful for them to hear that from you in another way, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's you're spot on there. How many times have you heard a business owner go, "Well, my people don't work as hard as I do"? Well, yeah, it's not their business. Of course, they're not going to work as hard as you, right?
And maybe they're getting more done than you. But yeah, there's also a difference between being busy and being effective, right? So there's that too.
There's no question about that. But right, to me, it's like a very like self-centered, self-serving thing. Well, I want them to work as hard as I do. It's like, yeah, it's your business. You own it. They don't own it. Well, now maybe I can work on ways where they can become an owner, right? And we've rolled out different programs here where people can get a piece of the pie, right? But it's having that realization, right? On a sports team, we're all trying for the same thing. We're trying to win games. We're trying to win a championship. In a professional setting, especially as people's lives evolve and people are in different phases of their life, right? The 60-year-old woman who's working, who's a couple years away from retirement, she's got different goals than the 25-year-old woman who's just at an MBA school and wants to get to the next level faster. Those are two different people in two different phases of their life. And so I think it's recognizing all of those things and how can we work out a system where we can all work together to go where we want to go.
That's great. That's great. So, we haven't talked about this specifically, but we chatted a bit before I hit let's go live, the let's go live button. And so I'm sure you have an answer for this, and I'm curious to know it. What's a book that's been specifically meaningful or helpful and meaningful to you in your career?
I was looking for my traction book. So we are an EOS shop. So for people who don't know what that means, that's Entrepreneurial Operating System. And the book is Traction. And that kind of spells out that system. EOS has been a huge, huge change for us. And it's been something that's really helped us scale as we kind of went through that, maybe 80 to 90 people up to where we're at now, or about 150 people. This system that we've implemented. So again, if you don't really know what EOS is, it kind of gives you a set of vocabulary, meeting cadence, the way you do goals. If you've heard terms like rocks and things like that, this is EOS type of lingo, right? And in the early days, Kevin, we said, well, we don't need a book. We're already doing this. We figured this out. We kind of have our own version of all of this. But what we saw is as we scaled, every new leader, we'd have to teach them, well, this is what we mean when we say that. Once we implemented EOS, we can now hand them the book Traction. They can read EOS, do some training on that, and they're like, I know what you guys are talking about. We're all on the same page. We understand the system. And so Traction has probably been the most impactful book for me as a leader and for our company.
And for all of you who are listening, we'll put that in the show notes later. You can go find that at remarkablepodcast.com. And so we hope that you'll check that out. I actually have met the guys who are in the venture capital organization that are a part of that organization of EOS.
Wow.
So what's something, Darrin, that I didn't ask that maybe you wished I would have? Or stated another way, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about real quick before we wrap up?
Hey, let me tell you a cool story about my kid, right? So this isn't really career-wise, this is personal life, but I'm just so proud of my son. And so we have 4 kids, right? I've got 2 birth sons in the middle, 2 adopted kids on the outside. Our oldest is a kid named Gideon. He's adopted from Nigeria. I say adopted, he's not actually officially adopted. He's actually here on a student visa, but he's been with us for 6 years now. He actually has a mom and dad back in Nigeria and 6 siblings. And Gideon's an amazing kid, Kevin. He works his tail off at Jersey Mike's. He's going to college, but in the summers he works at Jersey Mike's. And a few years ago, we're breaking his stones, Kevin. We're saying, G, we call him G. His name's Gideon. We go, G, what are you doing with all your money, man? You're like the richest guy. You're the richest guy in America here. And what are you going to buy a new car? And he goes, actually, I just bought my parents a house. He bought his parents in Nigeria a house with his money he earned from Jersey Mike's by working 60, 70 hours a week. And we just thought that was so cool. The next summer we were breaking his stones again. How are you going to top the house? He bought him 250 chickens and he sent his brother to college in Nigeria. And so I'm so proud of my boy. This has nothing to do with, leadership, but it's a cool story and maybe kind of encourages some people. And, it's something that always gets me motivated.
I love that. So, where can we learn more? If people want to get connected with you, or they want to learn more, or they want to know more about your company, maybe they know someone who's a software engineer. Maybe they are a software engineer. Where do you want to point people? How can they get connected with you in the Jahnel Group?
Oh, that's great, Kevin. Yeah, we're always hiring. We're always hunting new work. So yeah, if any, I don't really have a major agenda on, coming on this podcast, but feel free to check out our website at jahnelgroup.com. Kevin just put it on the screen there, Jahnel, jahnelgroup.com. And you can check out some of our culture. We've got some of our videos on there. There's a pretty cool highlight video on the main page. And at the end, my brother smashes a sign over my head. So if you want to see me get cracked over the head, WWE style, check out that video and you can just learn some more about our company. And if you want to hit me up for anything, a project, you're looking for a gig, a smart person who's looking for a great place to land, feel free to hit me up, or even if you just want free advice, I'm always looking to add value and looking to help. So feel free to check out our website.
All right. Jahnel Group, JAHNEL Group.com. And now a question for all of you who are listening or watching. It's the question I ask every single episode. It's my favorite 2-word question in the world. Now what? So what are you going to do with what you just heard? What did you just learn from Darrin that you need to move from being intellectual knowledge to actionable advice. What did you take from this? Maybe just a few of the things I wrote, not because they need to be yours, but as examples. What could I be doing as a leader to be creating moments? The idea that Darrin mentioned several times of a special team. Am I on one? Have I been part of one? If I have, what can I do from my experience there to help create that or move my team in that direction? We talked about a lot of things, and whatever it is that you found most helpful, the only way this ultimately is helpful is if you take action. So I hope that you will do exactly that. Darrin's nodding, which means that both of us are in agreement that, if you just wanted entertainment, you could have probably done better than the Darrin and Kevin show. But if you want to take action to be a better leader, there was a lot here, but it'll only happen when you go to work. We hope that you'll do that. And we hope that you'll be back for a future episode of the Remarkable Leadership Podcast. We're here all the time. And so please let someone know that you liked it and have encouraged them to come watch this, listen to this or another episode. And by all means, if you're hearing this, you want to go to virtualleadercon.com and get signed up to join us for 4 days, 30 experts, tremendous virtual learning opportunity. And if you do it live, it's all free. We'll talk to you soon. Darrin, thanks again for being here. Such a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. I'm honored to be a guest, and you're on a great show here. Thank you.
All right. Well, everybody, we will be back next week. You know that. So come join us. We'll see you then. Thanks.